Good morning. It's just after 5 a.m. just outside of Calgary, and I want to bring something up that happened at the Therapeutic Yoga Intensive yesterday that we were running online that is really, really common. And what happens is that people do say something like a shoulder exercise, and they do something that helps them improve what's going on between the coracoid process and the rib cage, or their blade in the rib cage, or their arm bone and the rib cage, and then all of a sudden their pelvis feels better, or their SI joint feels better, or the bursitis feels better. And they look at me with this sort of gobsmacked look of like, how is that possible? And so today I want to just go through this a little bit, because sometimes I think what happens is we forget that we came from two cells. So we actually are all connected, right? But in the Western way of looking at movement, or looking at our well-being rather, is that we're all systematized, and that, you know, if you've got a shoulder issue, it's a shoulder issue. If you've got a hip issue, it's a hip issue. But in states of persistent pain, when you've had a condition for a period of time, it's never just one thing, ever. I've never seen that. We can relieve the symptoms in one area, but if you want to make that next level, there is a connection between the two. So what I want to do today is I want to share some of the things that we did yesterday, and I want to explain a little bit of what was going on with the skeleton. So I need you to have a strap. Now my strap is like super long, right? It's like a 6 foot, 8 foot strap. You don't need it nearly that long. In fact, having it too long can sometimes be a little bit annoying. But here it is. You can have a 4-footer, that's fine. But look at where this loop is. Okay, this is the buckle, and the buckle is sitting right here, and the tail is sitting right here. Yeah? Okay, so now the tail is coming down your back. Now you're going to bring it across to your armpit. So let me give you a look here. Yeah. Okay, now we're bringing it over top of the shoulder now, like this. So we've gone over one side, we've come across, and now we're coming over the same shoulder on the other side. And then we're going to bring that under here. We're going to loop it up. Okay, so there's looped up. You can see that I've got an X on the back. Okay, and then what I recommend is you bring this the buckle of it, bring it to the back. Okay, now I want to show you something. I'm going to bring the skeleton up really, really close. So you see where this is placed right here, yeah? Okay, now look at this guy. Look at that. That's the coracoid process of this shoulder blade, okay? And so there's a muscle called your pec minor that attaches right here. And there's a whole bunch of other tissue, muscle and fascia all through here that can get really, really limited, particularly when we've got a little bit of a forward motion here. Now, what's interesting is people will then go, oh yeah, because the shoulder's around and forward, right? Which is true, they might be. But part of that coming forward is not just about the shoulders, it's about what's going on below the body, like in the below the shoulders. So when you're here and you feel like you're being pulled back this way a little bit, that's partly what's happening. It's partly that the collarbones and that coracoid process are coming back more this way, right? And you can probably you won't jut your ribs up. For many people, they feel like there's support, that their rib cage now can sit here on top of their pelvis more easily. Okay, so now I'm going to come back. I'm going to be in standing, and I just want you to feel yourself in standing here. And notice what this feels like now that you're in Tadasana. Yeah, and just feel the points of your feet, the center of the heel, the ball of the foot, and the base of the pinky toe. Feel those underneath you. And now notice just the orientation that you have between your shoulder girdle and your feet. Okay, now we'll do a movement that you've seen me do a lot if you follow me here, is we're just going to take the legs wide. Pay attention to what's going on in here. Now we're going to start to move through the legs, and keeping the awareness on the feet, now start to move through your hips and your knees. So this is the articulating joint. But now what's likely going to happen for some of you is you're going to notice that you have a bunch of tension in here, or a bunch of tension in through here. Yeah? So as you move your hips, notice, are you building tension through here and here? And I'd love for you to either consciously be aware of keeping this area soft, or only move the legs as far as you don't use this area, and then start to move, meaning the ribs, like don't grip here, and start to move through your hips, your knees, and your ankles with more ease up and through here, right? Let your ease be the foundation of your movement. And the position of the strap is just putting your shoulders in an orientation in your brain, yes, and probably physically, that is having you move through your hips, perhaps in a bit of a more, I'm just going to say a more deliberate, specific way. Okay, good. Now bring your legs back together. Now come back to standing. Now notice what you feel through your hips, through your ribs, further up your ribs to your shoulders. Okay, good. Now let's take that off. And hold on to it because we're going to use it again. But now just notice what you feel through here in your shoulder girdle, and notice what's going on through your pelvis, down your legs to your feet. Yeah? Okay, so now unhook this if you're using it because it will have spun and twisted. And let's take the strap again and make a loop of it. And that loop is coming into being about shoulder width apart. Okay? So close up like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here and then here so that my strap is just over the shoulders. And let me just move the buckle so the buckle's not on my elbow. Yeah, so now I'm here. Okay, now, one of the tricky bits with this one is that sometimes when people don't have the range to bring their arms back, then they're going to stick this out or they're going to do something with their hips. So now you start to see more relationship. So make it so that it's easy enough for you to slide it on, and it's just above your elbows. So you get a closer look there? Yeah. Okay, so you're here now. Now this is not so snug like the last one. It's not so snug that you start to gain numbness or tingling in your hands. And now watch this arm bone in the shoulder socket. And we're bringing the arm back. Let me bring the skeleton up. Okay, so the arm is coming back like this. So this joint here, your glenohumeral joint, that is the articulating joint. That arm bone is moving in the shoulder socket. So you're here, and you're just bringing the arm back. Now, what you can also do is bend the elbows and keep the forearm parallel with the floor. So sometimes what happens is people do this. See how that shoulder pops forward? Or they do this. Right? Now, I don't want you to set your shoulder blades and get too much tension in your blades because that is the opposite, but still not what we want. Just think about just the arm bone. We're not retracting the blades. We're just moving that arm bone in extension behind. And the forearm is staying parallel to the floor. Ribs are not poking out. So notice as the arm comes back, if the ribs want to shove forward. And so only move as far as that doesn't happen. Right? It's not like the ribs have a brain and say, I'm going to push forward now. They're moving because they're moving in response to something that's not happening. Okay, now notice yourself standing on your feet and be aware of that. And be aware of just the orientation of your body, head, rib cage, pelvis, feet. Good, and then let that go. Good. Now, stand and notice what you feel. Notice what has happened up in here and if there's been any change further down. Now, I'm not saying that there will definitely be, but it's so interesting in every training that I lead, in every private session series that I run, we're now going to put this over our wrists. There is always somebody who is dumbfounded and gobsmacked that by moving and improving through one area of their body, meaning their shoulders or their hips, the other area, shoulders or hips, changes significantly. And it's in a way that's very surprising to them because They really thought that their issue was in the area of the body that was having the pain or having the strain. And they might have like little indications of, and we're bringing the arms back into a bit of extension, they might have some like indications that there's a relationship, but they don't quite have all the data to know it to be true. So they're a little bit surprised, but also gobsmacked. Like their brain is seeing a whole new possibility for themselves, because now it has seen the proof or the evidence that their body is more connected than they actually were believing before. Yeah? Good. Okay, then let that go. And when that starts to happen, so much begins to change. But the trouble is that we can't necessarily change our thinking, even though intellectually we might know there's a connection. It's really tough to change that. The change comes from the feeling experience. Yeah? Okay, so now we're going to add a TheraBand. And the TheraBand is here. And now it's just bringing the arms wide. So now pay attention, yeah? So watch if you want to do this. Watch if you want to hold the ribs down. Notice the level of tension that you're utilizing up and through here, and then also bring your awareness down to here about what's happening through here. Like, do you feel like you're leaving your legs? Like, people actually feel like, not like numb, but like there's almost a dissociation from their legs. So when you're here, find a position with that band, and only just easy. Be really, really easy about it. Maybe you're only coming here. Maybe you come through here. But have this arm bone doing a horizontal movement here, just like so. Yeah. And watch your breath. Allow your ease to be the foundation of this. Your ease is arising out of your awareness. And that's one of the reasons I speak so much about awareness. Okay, now let that go. We're going to come back to your strap. Or you can use your TheraBand for this one. So TheraBand or strap, I'll use the strap. And you're going to take this and we're going to bring it in two places around the rib cage. You can be in sitting or in standing for this. And if you want, you can even be in laying down. You're going to take this around the lower part of your ribs, and you're going to tie it, not too snugly, but enough to act as some feedback. So here, it's going to come around the ribs here, this lower part, okay? And all you're going to do is notice where your breathing is right now. So I'm doing this in kneeling. You can do it in standing, you can do it in sitting, you can do it in lying down. You really choose what makes the most sense for you. Okay, so you're here. Notice where the breath is, and without changing the volume of your breath, and that's a really important key, don't increase in your breath all of a sudden. I want you to bring the awareness to here. Let your ribs move wide into your strap. Good. Okay, now back here. Bring the ribs into through your breathing. Allow your breathing to come back into the back ribs and into the strap. So it makes it really interesting, right? Because as I was saying to the trainees yesterday at the intensive, I was saying, you know, it makes it really difficult to call something a shoulder exercise when the result is in the hip. So is that thing that we're doing around the shoulders a shoulder movement, or is it actually a hip? Like, how do we define it, right? And so it's why I don't say that this is a shoulder exercise or this is a hip exercise. Okay, now we're going to let that go. Take a breather for a moment. Hold on to the strap or your TheraBand. And it's why I just simply like looking at movement. And we see the result of the movement from what we do, as opposed to saying, this is a thing for the glutes. I can't tell you how many times I have worked with someone's shoulders and their glutes have started to fire. And it's like, so then what was that? Was that a glute exercise that I was helping someone with? No, not at all, right? It was just helping someone move better. It just, their body was in a certain state where they were, now we're up higher, under the armpits here, was in a certain state where they're doing something up in here, and that was related to glutes not firing. And then when we kind of got that more online, then the glutes went, oh, that's what you want me to do. That's why it's so important to be able to see your person and see their movement pattern, be present to what's going on in front of you, rather than kind of going through your head all these protocols and templates for conditions. I found that it's not a very effective way to get results. Okay, so now here, same thing. Feel where you're breathing, and now bring your breath out into the side of your ribs. So maybe this might feel a little bit different. If you need to put your fingers under here, do that. And then bring it into the back of your ribs. Okay, now let that go. And let's see where you are at. Okay, now come back here. Let's come back to one of these guys that we did earlier. So now rotate your leg bones. Notice what's going on up here. Now start to move through your hips, your knees, and your ankles. And notice what happens. See, this is what it comes to around being able to solve your pain puzzle, is developing the awareness of what it is that you're unaware of and starting to collect the data points around what's going on in your body and your mind, and then bringing them together and seeing the patterns and then intervening appropriately. And I'm getting into all of that this November with Solving the Pain Puzzle. The link is in the subject part of this post. I would love, 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 love to teach you. Love to teach you. I'd love to help you get untrapped and uncaged from persistent pain. All right, so now get a feel of your shoulder girdle, your rib cage, how that feels relative to your pelvis and your hips. As you move around in your day or the rest of your day today, or before you're going to bed, depending on when you're doing this, just pay attention. Pay attention to these relationships. I would love to read your comments below, and if you've got questions, fire them off. Mwah! Have a great, great day. We'll see you tomorrow.